The morning of my wedding should have been the happiest of my life. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows of the bridal suite, casting golden shapes across the ivory lace of my dress. The scent of lilies, my favorite, filled the air, their delicate fragrance mingling with the nervous flutter in my chest. I'd spent years imagining this day, walking down the aisle, my groom waiting with that soft smile he always gave me, the one that had melted my heart when we first met. I remember standing before the mirror, my hands trembling as I fastened my grandmother's pearl necklace, the one she'd worn on her own wedding day. It felt like a shield of tradition, a promise of something enduring. Behind me, my mother hovered, fussing with the veil. She looked radiant in her pale blue dress, eyes glinting with a strange excitement I mistook for pride. "You look beautiful," she whispered, and for a moment I felt safe, but safety was an illusion. The first crack appeared when my phone buzzed on the vanity. A text message. Unfamiliar number. My stomach clenched as I read the words. "You don't know the truth about him. Ask your mother." I froze, the letters burning into my mind. I glanced at her reflection in the mirror. She was smiling, but her fingers fidgeted with the edge of the veil. I asked who the message was from, but she brushed it off with a quick, probably a jealous ex of his. Don't let it ruin your day. Yet the seed was planted. As the ceremony time approached, I walked down the hallway to the chapel's anteroom, where the groom was supposed to be waiting. My heels clicked on the marble floor like a ticking clock. The doors were slightly ajar. I heard voices inside, hushed but intense. His voice. Her voice. My heart stopped. I shouldn't have listened, but I did. "I told you this would ruin everything," my mother hissed. "We had no choice," he murmured back. "If she finds out..." "She can't. Not today." My breath caught in my throat. A hot wave of nausea rose as my mind scrambled to understand. My mother and my fiancé. Together. The man I was about to marry. The woman who'd raised me. I pressed my back to the cold wall, trying not to sob. The room spun. I stumbled back into the bridal suite, locked the door, and ripped off my veil. My reflection stared back, eyes wide with horror. The text message was real. The betrayal was real. My world cracked open like glass under a hammer. All the dinners, the planning, the quiet looks between them. They all rushed back with new meaning. I couldn't do it. I couldn't marry him. So I ran. I tore out of the side door of the chapel, the skirt of my dress catching on the cobblestones as I fled into the parking lot. Guests turned, confused murmurs following me. My lungs burned as I climbed into the first taxi I saw, gasping, "Just go." The driver didn't ask questions. As the city blurred past, tears streaked my makeup. My mind whirled. How long had it been going on? Why my own mother? Why him? Every memory felt poisoned now. The night he proposed and she'd hugged him so tightly. The way she'd defended him when I'd complained about his long hours. It all made sense, and yet it didn't. Hours passed before I could even catch my breath. I checked my phone. Dozens of missed calls from him, from her, from friends. Texts begging me to come back, to please understand. Understand what? That my wedding was a sham? I turned off the phone and sat in silence. That night, I holed up in a small motel on the edge of town. The neon sign flickered through the blinds, casting strange shadows on the carpet. I stared at the ceiling, replaying the voices I'd heard. Rage began to simmer under the shock. Rage and a plan. If they had destroyed my life, I wasn't going to let them get away with it. I would go back. Not to marry him. Not to forgive her. But to expose them both. I imagined walking into the reception unannounced, ripping the mask off their faces, watching the guests gasp as their perfect facade shattered. The thought was a small comfort, like holding a sharp blade in the dark. But as I lay there, a strange doubt crept in. The message on my phone, the urgency in their voices. We had no choice. Not today. There was something else there, something I wasn't seeing. I shoved it aside. My heart was broken, my trust annihilated. That was enough. In the morning, I put on a plain dress, tied my hair back, and headed back into the city. I'd confront them, demand answers, make them pay. But nothing could have prepared me for what was really waiting. When I arrived at my apartment, The door was ajar. Inside, everything was untouched, but on the kitchen counter lay a manila envelope with my name scrawled across it. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were photographs, grainy, nighttime shots of me at home, at work, even asleep. A note read, "You're in danger. Trust no one." My heart thudded. This wasn't from him, or from her. This was something else entirely. For the first time since running from the altar, fear eclipsed my anger. And deep down, I knew. The betrayal I'd uncovered was only the beginning. I sat at my kitchen table, the photos spread out before me like a deck of cursed cards. Each one was more invasive than the last. Me walking to the grocery store, me laughing with my friends, me asleep with the curtains drawn. Someone had been following me for months. My skin crawled at the thought. All this time, while I'd been planning floral arrangements and seating charts, someone had been planning something else entirely. The note, "You're in danger. Trust no one," felt like a commandment carved in stone. My first instinct was to call the police, but a dark voice whispered, "What if they're already involved?" It sounded paranoid, but paranoia suddenly felt like survival. My phone buzzed on the table. Him again. I stared at the screen, his name pulsing like a wound. Against my better judgment, I answered, "Where are you?" His voice was tight, urgent. "You know damn well where I'm not." I spat. "You don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly. You and my mother, together, on my wedding day." A sharp intake of breath on the line. "It's not what you think," I almost laughed. "That's what people say before it's exactly what you think." "Please," he said. "Don't come back yet. You're not safe." The line went dead. I sat frozen. Not safe, what did that mean? If he and my mother had betrayed me, why would he warn me? Unless the betrayal wasn't what it looked like. My stomach twisted. I went to my bedroom and pulled out the small fireproof box where I kept my birth certificate, old letters, and other documents. For reasons I couldn't explain, I started going through them, as if the truth might be hiding in a piece of paper. That's when I found an envelope I didn't recognize. My name scrawled in my mother's handwriting. Inside was a letter. "If you're reading this, it means everything went wrong. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you. He and I have been working to keep you safe. There are people who want to hurt you, people connected to your father. The wedding was a cover to draw them out. Please, don't trust anyone until we can explain." The room tilted. Connected to my father? My father had died when I was a child. Or at least that's what I'd been told. Questions I'd buried for years surged up like a tide. My father's accident overseas. My mother's sudden move across the country. The way she'd always been so protective. I sat on the floor, the letter trembling in my hands. I felt like a marionette whose strings had been cut. Betrayal or protection? Was I a victim or a pawn in something larger? I needed answers. I drove across town to the small cafe where my mother used to take me when I was little. It was our neutral ground. If she wanted to reach me, she'd know to come here. I sat at a corner table scanning every face. After half an hour, she walked in. No makeup, eyes red. She looked older than I'd ever seen her. "You shouldn't have come," she said, sliding into the booth. I deserved to know the truth. My voice cracked. "How long?" "It's complicated. Make it simple." She looked down at her hands. "Your father didn't die. He disappeared. He was involved with dangerous people who would kill to keep secrets. When you were little, I ran to protect you. We changed our names. For years it worked. My heart pounded. And him? My fiancé?" She hesitated. "He's not what you think. He's been working with me to keep you safe. The marriage was part of a plan, a way to draw them out, to protect you. They were going to target your wedding. We were trying to stay ahead. I felt sick. So the affair—" "There was no affair," she whispered. "We staged those conversations to mislead anyone listening. We thought it would keep you from suspicion." Tears blurred my vision. All the rage, the heartbreak. It had been built on a misunderstanding. Yet the pain was real. "You should have told me," I said. "I couldn't," she said. "It would have put you in more danger. You were supposed to stay in that church. You were supposed to be safe." Safe. The word felt hollow. I leaned back, trying to breathe. My life had been rewritten in an instant. My father alive. My fiancé an ally. My mother a conspirator in some covert plan. but the photographs on my counter were proof. Someone else was still out there, watching me. Before I could speak again, a shadow fell over our table. A man in a gray suit stood there, his expression polite but eyes cold. "Ladies," he said, "I'm afraid you're both coming with me." My mother's hand slipped under the table. "Run!" she whispered. I bolted. Chairs toppled as I sprinted out the back door. Behind me, I heard a scuffle, my mother shouting, the man cursing. I didn't look back. I burst into the alley, lungs burning. A black van idled at the curb, its side door sliding open. Inside, to my shock, was my fiancé. "Get in!" he yelled. I hesitated only a second before climbing in. The door slammed shut and the van screeched away from the curb. "What is happening?" I demanded. He gripped the wheel, jaw tight. "They found us sooner than we thought. Your mother's buying us time." "Buying us time?" My voice rose. "She's still back there." "She knew the risks," he said quietly. I pressed my fists to my temples. My entire life was a kaleidoscope of shifting truths. I didn't know who to hate or who to trust. But as the city faded behind us, one thing became clear. The real danger wasn't my groom or my mother. It was whoever had been hunting me since childhood. We drove for hours out of the city and into the countryside. At last he turned down a gravel road leading to a secluded farmhouse. "Safe house," he said. For now. Inside, the air smelled of cedar and dust. Maps covered the walls, red pins marking locations across the country. On a table sat a laptop showing surveillance footage of the church, my apartment, the cafe. My face stared back at me from the screen. He sat opposite me, his expression softening. "I wanted to tell you everything. I wanted a real wedding, but your father's enemies are ruthless. This was the only way to protect you." I stared at him. "Where is my father?" He hesitated. "That's the question, isn't it?" A shiver ran down my spine. For the first time, I realized my father might not be a victim at all. He might be the one pulling the strings. I didn't sleep that night. The farmhouse was silent except for the ticking of an old wall clock, each sound a needle scratching across my nerves. My groom, my supposed protector, sat at the table, typing furiously on his laptop, lines of code flickering across the screen. Outside, the woods stretched for miles, their branches like black veins against a silver sky. I stared out the window, my mind a storm. All my life I'd carried a memory of my father as a gentle, laughing man who'd vanished too soon. Now that memory felt like a mirage. If he'd been involved with dangerous people, if he'd been hiding all these years, then who was he really? A victim? A traitor? Or something far worse? I turned back to the table. "You're not telling me everything," I said. He looked up, eyes tired. "You already know too much." "I've been lied to my entire life," I snapped. "If you want my trust, start telling the truth." He rubbed his temples, then pushed the laptop toward me. On the screen was a dossier, my father's name at the top. Below it, a list of aliases, bank accounts, offshore properties. Photographs of him with men in suits, men with weapons. Newspaper clippings of bombings, disappearances, political scandals. "Your father isn't dead," he said quietly. "He's one of them." The room tilted. I clutched the back of the chair. "You're lying." "I wish I were." I scrolled through the files, my hands trembling. Each new image carved away another piece of the father I'd loved. There he was in a hotel lobby with a known arms dealer. There he was shaking hands with a politician who'd later been assassinated. There he was, older, grayer, but unmistakably him, standing beside my mother at my 10th birthday party. "You knew," I whispered. He nodded. "Your mother knew too. She tried to keep you away from him. That's why she planned the wedding, to lure his network out, to make them think you were vulnerable. We thought we could control it. And now?" He looked grim. "Now they know you're awake, and he'll come for you himself." A chill crawled over my skin. "What does he want with me?" He hesitated. "Your leverage. He wants to disappear again, and he thinks you'll help him. Or he wants to make sure you can't expose him." I turned away, staring at the maps on the wall. My whole life had been a chessboard, and I'd been the queen, powerful but trapped, every move calculated by someone else. Anger rose in my chest, hot and sharp. "No," I said. "I'm done being a pawn." I grabbed the laptop. Where is he now? A long pause. We've traced him to a private airstrip 2 hours from here. He's leaving the country tonight. Then take me there. He shook his head. It's too dangerous. I'm not asking, I said. We left just after midnight, driving with the headlights off until we reached the main road. The air was thick with fog, our breaths visible even inside the car. Neither of us spoke. My hands were clenched so tightly my nails dug into my palms. I wasn't sure if I wanted to confront my father, to beg for answers, or to destroy him. At the airstrip, the fog hung low over the tarmac. A single jet waited, engines idling. Figures moved around it, dark silhouettes, efficient, silent. My groom parked the car behind a hangar. This is it, he whispered. Once we step out, there's no going back. I slipped off my shoes, my heart pounding. Good. We crept along the edge of the hangar until we could see the plane clearly. A man descended the steps. Even from a distance, I recognized the way he walked, confident, measured, as if the world belonged to him. My father. I stepped into the open. Dad! I shouted. He stopped. Slowly he turned. His face was older, lined, but his eyes were exactly as I remembered, sharp and unsettlingly calm. Sweetheart, he said as if we were meeting for coffee. You shouldn't be here. My groom appeared at my side, gun drawn. Stay where you are. My father smiled faintly. Always the protector, he said. Do you even know who you're working for? Stop, I said, voice shaking. Tell me the truth. All of it. He spread his hands. The truth is never simple. I did what I had to do. For power. For survival. For you. For me. I spat. You abandoned me. I saved you, he said. Your mother would have handed you over to them in a heartbeat. She's been lying to you from the start. My stomach twisted. You're lying. He stepped closer. Ask her where she was the night of the Valencia bombing. Ask her who paid for your fiancé's education. You think you're the heroine in this story, but you're just another piece on the board. His words hit like blows. The ground beneath me felt like it was crumbling. I looked at my groom. His jaw was tight, eyes flicking between us. He's trying to break you, he said. Don't listen. Or maybe he's telling the truth, I whispered. My father reached into his coat and pulled out a small device, a phone or a detonator, I couldn't tell. Come with me now, he said softly. We can disappear together. Start over. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. Then, everything exploded. A flash of light, a roar of fire. The hangar shuddered as part of it went up in flames. My groom tackled me to the ground, shielding me as debris rained down. Screams echoed across the tarmac. When the smoke cleared, my father was gone. The jet was already rolling down the runway, engines screaming. I scrambled to my feet. Stop him, I shouted. My groom grabbed my hand. We can't. He's gone. I tore free, running toward the plane, but it lifted into the fog and vanished. I stood on the tarmac, chest heaving, the smell of smoke and jet fuel filling my lungs. My groom came up behind me. It's over, he said gently. No, I whispered. It's just beginning. I turned to him. You're going to tell me everything. Every secret. Every lie. And then we're going to find him. He nodded slowly. If you're sure? I'm sure, I said. My voice was steady now, colder. I've been running all my life. No more. As the sirens wailed in the distance, we walked away from the burning hangar together. Two people bound by betrayal, blood, and the promise of vengeance. Somewhere in the sky. My father disappeared into the clouds, but for the first time I felt clear. This was my story now, and I was done being anyone's pawn.